All right, we are going to launch into the topic today. Clean slate. We are not doing a systems thing today. We're going to talk about being a good co-op agent. Okay. So you guys, I know you guys, if you've been around for more than 5 minutes, you've got a story or an experience about working with a co-op agent that was interesting, colorful. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. There are some interesting things that you are going to encounter out there. There are a lot of agents, 53,000 in Metro Atlanta. And I'm going to tell you all, this is, that seems like a lot, but I'm going to tell you, you will find that this is a very small and pardon the language of this, but this is kind of an incestuous bunch that we live in, that real estate agents are. We work in the same circles. We often find that your paths will cross with somebody repeatedly. And if you get a bad reputation, or if you do something that is questionable in terms of either ethics or standard practice or policy and procedures, if you do anything that is just squirrely and puts anything that could be off-putting, it can affect your reputation. It can affect how people perceive you, and you can experience long-term benefits or negative impacts of that. I prefer to have it be a positive relationship and have positive benefits in it. Okay. So that's why when encountering a situation where, there is right and there's wrong, there's black and there's white, and there might be some gray area in between, if you can legally fall in that gray area, is it in your best interest to do so? In my opinion, based off of reputation, based off of your moral compass and your moral code, but most importantly about your reputation and your ethical guidance, you're better off to err on the side of caution in those situations. Chris, we had that conversation, did we not? You still on there, buddy? You're muted if you are. Chris and I had that conversation earlier this week. I think he's engaged in something, but we had that conversation earlier last week, actually, in a situation where he was like, is it likely that they're going to find out about this situation or a referral fee involved or things like that? And my caution is, you're better off to just be honest, be upfront, and address the situation early in the game. Okay. So with that, I wanted to that's kind of the motivation behind. Now we're going to talk about practical application of this. So we're going to launch right into something that I have titled, Be the Co-op Agent That Everybody Likes to Work With. Okay, everybody looking at my slide deck right now? Thank you. All right, so these are in absolutely no order whatsoever, and not in any order of preference or priority, but good information nonetheless. So if you want to be a good cooperative agent that everyone wants to work with, a couple of things that you can do straight off the bat. You want to leave feedback for your showings. This is all about the golden rule. And I know you guys have heard me say this many, many times, but it is true. I had 11 showings over the weekend, and you want to know how many feedbacks I left this morning? 11. All right. When you have a listing, you're going to want that feedback on your listing. So in order to get feedback on your listing, you need to leave it on somebody else's. Okay. It's just that simple. Okay. Also, with regards to showing time, do your best to stay on your showing appointment schedule. And if you're not going to be able to stay on that schedule, communicate the delay, reschedule. It is so simple and so easy with the Showing Time app to reschedule appointments or to change it by the 15, 30 minutes. Try to remember and be courteous of the fact that for every time you're showing, it's not just about you, it's not just about your client, but it's also about the seller of the home who has gone out of their way to vacate that property and make it available and make it pretty for you to show it. And sometimes they're going to great lengths to do so. And for you to just not show up or to not cancel the appointment or to not be on time or be 30 minutes late, or, equally bad is 30 minutes early. Oof. Not good. All right. Because you can catch people off guard. So be courteous with regards to showing appointments and showing schedules, and be either on time or reschedule on the fly as you can. All right. All right. Next comes down to communicating with the other agents. And that has to do, especially when you receive offers, amendments, or anything that you get detailed, or that you get emailed to you. Acknowledge receipt of the offer, of the amendment. Just simply say, I got it. Okay. Someone took time to send it to you. Take that few seconds to say received, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's just that simple. Right. And then also, just in general, to emails, simple enough, respond to those emails. Not only from your co-op agents, but folks, I'm gonna take this off the screen because I need to impress this on you visually too. Not only keep it in communication with your co-op agents, but also with the help desk and with the brokerage staff. If you are getting an email that says we need an amendment, or there's a signature missing or something, that is ultimately not something that is noise that you should just brush away. It is something that's important. And your contract could rest on whether or not the legality and enforceability of your contract could rest on whether or not you've responded to that email to get that additional signature or that date or that initial, whatever is required. Okay. So make sure you make priority for anything that's coming from the help desk or any of the brokerage staff, but also most importantly from your co-op agents. Any questions on that at all? Okay. Next, and let's talk about phone calls. So in addition to email, simple enough, when somebody calls you, do your best to answer the phone, return the calls, reply to text messages, whatever the case may be. Do not ignore, do be communicative. It does not take that much time. Okay. I know you're out showing homes, but it doesn't take time to say, received, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I love this. When other agents actually know what they're doing, you can actually breathe a sigh of relief. Isn't that wonderful? All right. When you receive an offer, if it is too low, by all means, don't just ignore it. Acknowledge receipt of the offer, respond in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just to say, unfortunately, my sellers have decided to pass on this one, period. Okay. Ambiguity and no information at all is not a good thing. It is a bad thing. And we need to take care of that and try to address it as much as humanly possible. All right. When you are communicating
what did you just say about ambiguity?
If there is ambiguity, they don't know if you're interested in their offer, it breeds insecurity, it breeds distrust. It's just a good idea to always communicate and be responsive. That's it. All right. When you are dealing with an agent, you always want to put forward a friendly tone in emails, whether it be on the phone or emails. There can always be a smile on your voice. This is really, really important, folks. And I'm going to say this. You are your cooperating agent. Does everybody understand co-op agent and the root word of co-op is what? What is the root word of co-op? It's cooperating. You are not the adversary. The other agent is not the adversary, and you are not their adversary. Folks, let me introduce this concept to you. I know I'm probably not introducing it, but we are in competition with every other agent in Metro Atlanta, right up until the point where I have a seller and you have a buyer. Okay, so we are in competition right up until that point. But at that point, we should put away our differences. We're no longer in competition with each other. I've got a client, you've got a client. Our clients want to do business together. It is up to us to be the sane, logical unemotional voice of reason in this equation. Okay. So don't treat the other agent like their adversary. Don't treat them like they're trying to pull something over your eyes, or you're trying to pull something, the wool over their eyes. You're working together. So it is in everybody's best interest to put away any adversarial relationships that you have and just work together. So presenting a friendly tone with the other agent is always in your best interest. All right. And when you're doing the friendly tone, so you know what? I want to go back to this. When you're doing your friendly tone, let's talk about one other thing with regards to this. And I just totally lost my train of thought. Have you ever had one of those moments, you guys? Letitia's laughing because I did this like twice on her yesterday when we were out showing houses. You know what? It'll come back to me. I'm moving right along. All right. Provide as much information as you can to interested parties without compromising your fiduciary duty to your clients. So in other words, try to answer questions as honestly as you can. If somebody asks you what your client's motivation is for selling the property, are you at liberty to discuss that all the time? Let's have this conversation. When you're listing a property, or and somebody says, well, why is your seller selling? What's the appropriate answer to that? Oh my gosh, he's actually asking a question that requires an interaction.
Well, you don't have to tell them, right?
It kind of depends on the reason. I guess let's say this: if your clients your selling clients are getting a divorce, do you tell the cooperating agent that they're getting a divorce?
Yes, I think you can. Can you tell? I think you can tell that, right?
Can and should are two different questions.
You can, but you probably shouldn't.
There you go.
That's kind of what I would say. So anything that could potentially convey motive, or could be extrapolated to determine maybe some sense of desperation. If people know that there's a divorce involved, what do they immediately think? They immediately think there might be an opportunity to seize an unfortunate situation and ride in on a white horse and rescue this with a low ball. That's probably, disclosing that type of information in that scenario is probably not a good idea. If you are ever encountering a situation where you're questioning whether or not you should reveal this information or not, what would be the appropriate response at that time? Bring it on, folks. Nicole, you were on a roll. Go ahead. Tell me what you think.
I don't know. Maybe just I'm not obligated to tell or something.
At liberty. I wouldn't say obligated, but what can I just? Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Nicole. That was good.
I am not at liberty to discuss that. But if you would like, I'd be certainly I'm certainly willing to ask my sellers if they would like that to be disclosed to you. Again, make your client the authority that they are. Ultimately, your loyalty is to them, not to that other agent. So don't be intimidated by pushing back to that other agent. All right. I remember what the other thing I was going to talk to you about, and I'm glad I did. So let's talk about something else. I can't tell you how many times I get asked this question. Somebody will text me and say the co-op agent is saying this. What do they mean by that? And I'm telling you folks, that's a difficult situation for me because I don't know the context of your conversation. And it's difficult for me to try to read in between the lines. And a lot of times y'all will come to one of the staff or one of the brokers on call and say, what do they mean by this? I'm going to encourage you to, instead of just I think what you're doing in this situation is you lack the confidence to be able to know the answer yourself, or you don't want to act silly. You seem dumb by asking a stupid question. There are no stupid questions. Feel free to ask the other agent. Well, what do you mean by that? I get questions all the time. This is what the agent has said. What do you think? What do you think their motives are here? I don't know what their motives are. You need to ask them what their motives are. Okay. So don't be afraid to ask the question and say, well, can you explain to me what you mean by that? Or they want to extend the due diligence period. They're concerned about what the lender might think. What do you mean? What do you think the lender's concerns are going to be? Ask questions. It's not a negative if you don't know the answer automatically. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. We're back. Let's move on to my next slide. So I am a big fan. You want to give everybody as much information as humanly possible. The help desk is going to do this for you most of the time, but it's a good thing to put into your cross-check to make sure that you are posting as much of the seller's disclosures, notices, anything that you can put online in the MLS, along with any other documents that are helpful to the agent. At a minimum, you should put the seller's property disclosure, lead-based paint, the community association disclosure. We have the utility forms that tell them, which utilities they might be interested in, surveys, plats. If you post all of that information online, you're heading off questions at the pass and just making it a lot easier for people to access the information that they might need to be able to write an offer to you. Okay. Does anybody have any differences of opinion on that? Because I've worked with some agents in the past that are like, no, I want them to call me. I want them to talk to me before they get the seller's property disclosure. That way I can tell them, kind of what my sellers are looking for. There's a school of thought behind that. I personally am of the mindset of I'd rather post it online and see if they're a good agent, they're going to call me anyway. Right? If they're a bad agent, they might just use that information and send me an offer without calling me. All right. I am on the fence about this one. You guys tell me what you think. Take the time to look up the schools that are zoned and put that information in the MLS. Knowing what the schools are zoned for, kind of knowing what their ratings are. It's never a good idea to post, top-notch schools or rated 8 out of 10, by whose standards. But you can use language like top-rated schools if it is truly a top-rated schools in your listing announcement. All right. Some people say it's just lazy if you just put the names of the schools without additional information. I'm of the mindset maybe you just want to put the accurate information in there. Guys with me on this one? Okay. Always thank the cooperating broker and agent after a successful transaction. We at the broker's level are doing this for you. I don't know if you realize this but every now and then Mike posts some feedback from other cooperating agents on how well they're doing. I know personally I've seen Chris Romero's name up there before. Being celebrated as an excellent cooperating agent, and there's many others. We actually survey people. You should survey them too. Get their feedback. It's a great idea. And last slide on my deck here is you never want to be snarky. You never want to make assumptions. Everybody knows the analogy of what happens when you make assumptions. You make an ASS donkey out of you and me when you make assumptions. Never assume the worst of people. Don't assume the worst, but you might want to plan for it anyway. So always question somebody's motives, but never question their attitude or their delivery. Does that make sense? Okay. And as a great example, let me show you a little. This is a real no kidding, text screenshot that I got from an agent who made an assumption. They made an assumption that they were thinking negatively. It was taking a while. I was doing negotiations with a client and it was taking them a while. They were having difficulty with the signature program. And he was questioning why it was taking longer to get everything signed and back and getting it bound. And in the absence of information, he started questioning motives and started basically thinking the worst in the situation. And you see this going from, hey, this expires at 10, just so you're familiar. And then a little bit later, it was, I can't help but think your clients are holding out for another offer. If this one expires, my client is not going to go above 252. He will revoke the escalation clause. And then when he was getting real nervous, he was putting me on notice that was only 9 minutes remaining on the signature. Yeah. So really, really snarky, really making some negative assumptions. And if you'll see what happened just a few minutes later. So in this situation, I could have texted back and say, cool your jets, or take a salt tab, dude, or relax, Francis. All of those things were going through my mind in this type of situation. But the reality of it is what worked best is in that situation, pick up the phone. I picked up the phone. I explained to him that it was just simply an issue of the signature program taking a while. Relax. Everything is under control. And literally just a few minutes later, we had the executed counteroffer signed, and he was happy and he gave the heart signal. So there's a perfect example of somebody who can, who in this context of a situation made an ill assumption, negative assumption, and then, for lack of a better term, had to eat their words. Okay. Questions? Anybody got any experiences you want to relay? All right. Letitia and I had another great experience over the weekend where our client, my client, left a diaper bag behind at a showing of a home that we had. And within 20 minutes, by the time we were at the next house, the agent had already texted a photo of the bag sitting in a chair and said, hey, you might want to come back and get it, which is exactly what we did. That's being a good player. Did they have to do that? Of course not, but it worked out great. Okay. Be that kind of agent. When you handle yourself above board with a solid moral compass and an ethical concept in your mind, you're always going to be in the right, and it's going to come back and pay dividends for you. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. Have a great day.
Thanks,
We'll talk to
Jay.
you all soon.